Hi, I'm Tim from the Marathon Mates. Are you thinking of stepping up and running the marathon majors? Have you started your 7-star journey and was wondering what order you should run the remaining marathons in? Well, you're in luck. On this episode, our 4 6-star marathon mates will share with you their journeys towards the 6-star medal as we talk about our preferred order to run the Abbott's World Marathon Majors. Are you ready to run? Let's go.
Welcome to the thrilling world of the flying runner, brought to you by the Marathon Mates.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tim, and welcome to episode 81 of the Flying Runner podcast. On this episode, we're going to have some fun, and we're going to try and break down the perfect order to run all 7 Abbott's World's Marathon Majors in. We'll share with you our journeys and talk about how, with hindsight, we'd run them again, in the order that we'd run them again. It's definitely going to be a fun chat tonight, but before we do any of that, as always, I'm joined by my marathon mates, Tony, Lucia, and Tara, of course, my better half. Guys, how's your week been and how's your running going? I'll start with you, Tony.
Week was very quiet for me. Very purposely doing slow, small, short runs. So I did 2 5Ks over the weekend, both incredibly slow. Enjoyed both of them. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm sort of in the pre-week before. Is there a pre-week before training starts? I've created that, so I'm now starting to do the pre-week before training starts for the Gold Coast. But
this is another form of procrastination.
No, it's not. It's just getting the mindset ready to go. Sharon's been going well. She did 6.5 on Saturday. She's got her own plan. She's going to go 1 kilometre a week all the way. Lift her distance for a long runs 1 kilometre a week all the way through to Gold Coast. So she's pretty comfy with that. She really switched on. But yeah, just a really light week and thoroughly enjoyed it, Tim.
Excellent. And Lucia, how was your week?
Just the usual week, nothing too exciting. Very similar to Tony, I'm starting to ramp it up in preparation.
So you're in pre-week mode as well.
I agree with you, Tony. So, yes, I'm getting ready for the training to officially start. So on Sunday was my long run of 10Ks in another nice and steamy Sydney weather, which I'm frankly getting over. But, body was feeling good. Very similar to you, Tony. I just didn't care about what pace, just wanted to make sure I was out there doing it. Yeah, so it was a very steamy run, but glad I got it done. And then just my usual run club sessions during the week. But I think I'm going to have to start doing a bit more strength because we'll talk about it a bit later on. But yeah, my plan for GC may be changing a little bit.
Okay, that's interesting. Leave us all on a hanger, so that's okay. We'll talk more about that later. And Tara, how'd we go this week? I know how we went, but how did our listeners, tell our listeners, I guess, how we went this week?
Well, we obviously do different things during the week now because with you living down the Gold Coast and me still in Brisbane, we only get to run together on the weekends. But I did night nav, so we'll have Reese on, I think, is it next week, to have a chat about night nav because I'm really enjoying that actually at the moment. So that's I think that was only about 5Ks worth, but it's really, really fun. Then I have just been doing a lot of strength work and strengthening work. Took it easy. Friday, I was just really, really tired, so I walked Parkrun on Saturday. So I did park walker duties and you did tail walker duties. So that was nice to have a little bit of a break just because my body was so tired. And I guess we're sort of in. Are we in pre-training week as well? I don't know what you'd call
No.
it.
Well, I'm not. I'm in training mode. I don't know about you, but I'm in training mode.
we knocked out a half marathon on Sunday, but there wasn't a lot of effort put into it from Tim's side of things, maybe a bit more from my side of things. But it was just slow, fun, and just getting the bodies used to having that distance back in them again, I guess. Yeah.
Distance beats pace, as we keep saying.
Yeah. Can I ask a question of the two parkrun experts, by the way?
Yeah.
I ran Meadowbrook Parkrun on the Saturday and caught up with good marathon mate Paula there. And but I was there because one of the guys at work, Andrew, was running his 200th parkrun. Yet 200th doesn't seem to be an official occasion. Why is that? I sort of don't get that. Like, that's 4 years worth of park runs, and we're saying, yeah, no, that's not worthy of a celebration. What you guys may not know the answer, but why?
Yeah, no, it's not actually that it's not worth the celebration. It's definitely worth that celebration. Parkrun run directors will certainly celebrate that individual. So the Parkrun brand, or I'd get a better word for it, I'm not sure, a corporation, they will give you a celebration t-shirt at 10 milestone for the juniors. They will give you a 25 parkrun for volunteer and for running, and then they'll give you a 50 volunteer and a 50 run. They will also give you a 100 run and a 100 volunteer shirt. They are just trying to encourage people to keep going with parkrun, I guess. Once you've hit that 100 mark, most people are pretty addicted to it and they will keep going. So the next milestone, obviously, because they're giving out so many shirts and stuff, if they gave it out every 125 or 150 or 200, it would actually become quite expensive for parkrun. So that's just their way of saying, yep, well done, congratulations. So they'll give out shirts at 250 and at 500 as well. So that is due for volunteers and for running. And it just encourages people to go. So when you're like with Tim and I, we did 250 quite some time ago, probably 2.5 years ago. And we've still got about another year or so to go to get to the 500 mark. So we've got a very big gap in between. However, when we go to our local Bunyaville parkrun, they certainly will celebrate our 400th parkrun or our 450th parkrun or 300th. It's just that you don't get the shirt. So it's not an official parkrun milestone. However, it is a milestone that is certainly celebrated at parkrun. Yeah. Does that make any sense if I explained that clearly? No. Not really.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense to me.
Yep.
Nothing to be sneezed at 4 years, but 5 years is more incredible. That's why you get the shirt at 5 years, not at 4 years. But yeah, it's about freebie shirts and freebie milestones, and also it's the challenge, I think, as well. Is you get to 100, okay, got to double it in a bit, go to 250, and then double it again to get to 500, and double it to 1,000. Now we don't know what the 1,000 color T-shirt's going to be. I think it will come out as a yellow, I think is what they're saying it will more than likely be. But I don't think anyone in the world's got 1,000 runs yet. I know there's been people that have got 1,000 volunteers, but not 1,000 runs. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that.
That's all right. All right, so a couple of other things while I've got you guys. One is the Run Disney FOMO is very real. Tara, Lucia, and myself this last couple of days have been reminiscing about Run Disney and the Dopey Marathon. It just has finished a couple of hours ago, and we've all got people that we know or have been keeping an eye on the social media feeds around Run Disney and Dopey. So well done to everyone out there who did do the Run Dopey or the Dopey Challenge this last few days. It's a fantastic event and one of those bucket list events that I think anyone should be aspiring to. You don't have to be the world's fastest person to be able to get through all 4 races. It is a challenge, and it's definitely a fun challenge and one we very much liked. And you don't even have to do the marathon. You can just do the 5 and the 10, or just the half if you wanted to. So yeah, so there's a bit of that, and I know, Tony, you're probably getting a bit of FOMO too with it all, and no doubt we'll be looking to sign up and do the Dopey challenge at some stage in the future.
Oh,
Well,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Tim, funny you should mention that, because I actually got an email from Travelling Fit earlier about the Dopey pre-registration for 2026. And I really think, instead of sending it to me, they were meant to send it to Tony. So, Tony, if you do want to do it in 2026, Travelling Fit are taking interest.
Yeah, I think Sharon and I said maybe 2039 was the year that we would be maybe
All right,
look at it.
Lock it in. That's not that far away. So we'll be all there running 2039 doing the Dopey with you.
It is actually quite funny, because I actually got a message through from one of our regular listeners, Sharon Dorwood, who sent me through a picture of Tim, myself, and her at the start line. And that was actually her first marathon.
That's right.
Wow.
And she sent me through a picture today on the memories, and she goes, "We haven't aged a bit." And I'm like, "Speak for yourself there, girl. She still looks the same. Tim and I have gotten older." And
yeah, we got old.
Yeah,
We
got old.
It's
So
nice
it's been 6
memories
years.
coming up.
6 years since
definitely.
we've been officially called Dopey. Well, until people can officially call us Dopey.
Yeah. Yeah, and also it was interesting. We did catch up with Sharon on the weekend, our friend Sharon from Dopey Days, and she said the question we had on there a little while ago, the scientific study around morning runners are better performers than evening runners. She said, what happens if I have an evening nap and then go out for a run? Does that make me a better runner then if I'm an evening runner? And I said, I don't know. I don't know what the science says, but it was an interesting question.
I
don't know.
it.
Yes. Now, the other one, Tony, we've got some big news. We've cracked a major milestone on Spotify in the last couple of days.
Yeah, we got notice from Spotify that we have officially recorded 10,000 downloads on the podcast, which is pretty cool. So,
Yeah.
well done. And thank you.
Well done. Yeah, thank you to all our listeners. And that is only Spotify. We also have people out there listening on Apple and other podcast platforms as well. So we do thank all of our listeners very much. And I suspect that 10,000 will grow to 20,000 pretty quickly, and it will just keep on snowballing from here. So, yeah. So thank you, everyone. Now it's that time of the week where we talk about the news. Tony, your turn now. What's been happening around the world of running over the past few days?
Well, the first bit of news that I've got to share is that we had some listener feedback in and around the 7th question. So thank you to Kay and Sean, who have provided that feedback. We really do appreciate it. Lucia and I are going to lock ourselves into a room somewhere, and we're going to bash out what this 7th question is. Only one person will come out alive. No. But they were both very, very good questions, and they may, if they're any of the questions that have been thrown forward don't appear as the 7th question, they will be incorporated in some of the conversations we have with runners, because they were really good questions. So thank you, Kay and Sean, and for dropping in your feedback. So Paula Radcliffe. Now, I believe she used to hold the world record for the marathon. Is that correct? Yeah. So
100%.
So during the week, she's advised or reported or communicated or had a media release that she is going to run the marathon again. So she last ran the 42.195 kilometer distance back in
2014.
Yeah, 2014. So 10 years after she last ran it. So she's going to return to marathon running in 2025. Do we know which race, Tim?
I think it's
if you read the next Yeah,
Oh,
the
sorry.
next sentence.
And you
See if
say
you can
I
keep
don't
up with
read
your own.
when.
Oh,
Run
she's taking on the 2025 Tokyo and Boston. All right. So, yeah. 51-year-old, she set the world's women's record in 2015, holding the top spot on the all-time list. So her return will actually make her a 6-star finisher. So maybe we should concentrate on getting her on the podcast. And during her career, she's won the London and New York Marathon on 3 occasions, as well as Chicago in 2002. So that's pretty cool that Paula Radcliffe is rejoining the marathon world. And as we talked just a couple of weeks back, it was Kipchoge running the 10K in Thailand as a back runner, which we loved. Now, I'm not saying Paula is going to be back there with the back runners, but she's not going to be as quick as what she was when she ran the world record. But it's great to see that she's back in the sport. So awesome.
But I wonder if she's ordered her Boston jacket.
Yeah.
Paula, if any of our listeners know Paula or know someone in her team that could find that out for us, that would be greatly appreciated.
Tell her she doesn't need to. She can just go down to Marathon Sports on the finish line and buy it from there, even a week after the event. So
Yeah.
to have enough jackets there, you don't need to buy them early.
Or wait a couple of months and pick them up at an Adidas outlet center. So Boston have also announced their elites for this year's race. Now, it is actually quite a decent field. They've announced, but no Aussies that I can see, which is a bit disappointing.
There is an Aussie in the men's.
Is there? Okay.
Patrick Teenan. Yep.
Oh, but he's based in America, but that's okay. He's an Aussie. They've announced Helen Obiri and Cissé Lema will return to defend their titles. So I think that's a really good positive. Only 4 women have won 3. Sorry. They're headlining a field that includes 21 sub 209 men and 17 sub 223 women, which is awesome. Only 4 women have won 3 consecutive Boston Marathon titles. Bobby Gibbs, Sarah May, Berman, Yuta Pipik, and Fatuma Roba, trying to prevent Obira's. Yes, this is her three-peat, isn't it? So
yes.
Will be awesome. 5 of the top 7 men's finishers from last year's return, led by reigning champion Cissé Lema. And I'm just going to read some of the names. So we've got in the women's field, we've got Amane Bariso from Ethiopia, best time 2:14 at Valencia in 2022. I really am going to struggle with this next one, ladies and gentlemen.
Take the next one. Take the next one.
And Tim's just smiling away because we've got Joan Melly from at 2:18. She ran that in Seoul. Kira D'Amato from USA, 2:19, Houston 2022. Edna Kiplagot from Kenya at 2:19, which was London 2012. So
Yes.
Sarah Hall, another USA, 2:20. Helen Obiri, of course, 2:21, Boston. And one of Tim's favourites, Desiree Linden, 2:22. So that's a pretty cool ladies field. In the men's, we've got Cissé Lema, 2:01 is his best time at Valencia, 2:023. John Cora, yeah, I'll say Cora, 2:02 from Kenya. Evan Chebet at 2:03 from Kenya. Let me just go through. We have got Patrick Tiernan from Australia, 2:07. He ran that at Houston. And we've got Connor Mance and Clayton Young, the 2 Americans, also in the field. So looks like a very strong field, guys. What are your thoughts?
I think a very strong one because Kira's a fan favourite. Like I do follow her on Instagram, and she's really out. And she does get out and meets the everyday runners. I remember when I did Chicago in 22, one of my friends that I did it with, she was a big Kira fan, and Kira did like a Nike meet and greet, and apparently there were hundreds of people. So she's very much about giving back, which I think is fantastic. So great field.
One thing you can always count on with Boston is the weather is a big factor. And last year it was really hot, as we know. Tara and I struggled through the heat, but in other years it can be sleety, cold, windy, horrible, and that's where people like Desi Linden came through in 2018, where she was able to run through all that sleety, horrible, cold weather. So you just never know; it could throw up a real wild card in the end. But if you can't deny Helena Beery. She's going for a three-peat in Boston. That would be legendary if she could do that. So
it's just one of those races that time doesn't really matter, does it? And because anything can happen on the day. We saw it with Kipchoge when he ran Boston. It just didn't feel right. So he sort of lost it over the hills. He probably downplayed the hills a little bit. So, and I'm going to make a call here. I'm going to say this race is going to be run by an American.
Ooh.
So, and I just think the Americans are on the up, and I just think Clayton Young is going to win the Boston Marathon. And wouldn't that be something awesome for the Americans? So, and maybe Kira does a surprise. She's had a bit of a rough trot finishing with a couple of DNFs lately, so maybe she'll be on the other side of the field. So.
No, the Boston Hills will get her. None of them will be enjoying the Scream Tunnel or, the free beers on the side of the course or patting all the dogs or, having a look at that final mile, 1 mile to go, the Sitco sign, and you look over to the right and there's Fenway Park and all the people cheering. They won't be looking at any of that. The New England architecture, the nice big wooden homes with their attics and stone and, the big yards around them. They won't be looking at any of that.
Or the riot police on the side.
Yeah, looking for the bomb squad and all the rest of it.
All right. So Sydney Marathon ballot dropped this week as well. And wasn't that a lot of fun on the social media that we love to see? They released the results of their ballot. And as usual, there's always happy people and there's always incredibly unhappy people. So it was interesting. The acceptances were done over a 2-day period and went out first, and then those not accepted were notified after that. But I do want to make a big call out to Wayne and the Sydney Marathon team, because they actually jumped into the World Marathons Majors Challenge group and clarified some of the process. And I think that is the first time that we've ever seen a race director out of any of the majors come into the group and share their knowledge, which I think is a fantastic thing. So Wayne Larden came onto social media. So I thought that was really positive. So what was your thoughts on how it all played out?
I thought, and just further to add to actually Wayne posting, and just to add, he posted it from his personal Facebook account profile, not even from the Sydney Marathon one. So big kudos to Wayne. It's kind of on par with what colour is the Boston jacket going to be. It's everyone moans, oh, I didn't get it. I didn't register. I've checked my junk. Oh no, I got an email to say there weren't funds in my credit card. Obviously they do have a lot to learn, like just in terms of the communication, but it is what it is. They gave enough notice to say, this is how the process is going to work. And interesting fact, I caught up with some friends yesterday, and one of the friends, her husband, he was offered a spot, but there was something wrong with his credit card or something. They gave him 2 days to fix it. He was that busy with work, he missed the deadline to update it and didn't get the spot. He wrote to Sydney Marathon, tried to plead his case, and it was a hard, firm no, which... Because and actually said to him, well, you actually opened the email. So I don't blame them for being tough. Rules are rules.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I've found amongst some other run club chats that I'm part of, people saying, oh, if I can't run it, can I defer, yada, 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 can I sell it? And the amount of times I've gone on to say, it is a major now. If you can't do it, your money is, well, like I basically say, your money is gone. There's no transfers. And also, if you transfer your bib, if you're caught, you could be banned for life. So I think people need to understand now that it's a major, it's a lot stricter and it has to abide by the rules of a major. And just to add, like I know I am going a bit off topic, because previous years, like you were able to register which run club you were part of, but now that it's a major, you can't do that. And some run clubs have been a bit upset about that. But it's like, do you either want your run club to have X amount of people say, yeah, I did it as part of, I don't know, Smith Run Club, like I've just made that up, or do you want to say I ran Sydney when it was a major? So I think people need to understand that the rules have changed and they've changed for the better because they do have to align. But it does keep me very entertained though.
Yeah,
read the fine print.
Yeah, I think Sydney did a great job communicating, and it really does. It doesn't take long to find the key points in any of their emails that they sent through. So well done, Sydney. I say probably there was conjecture around the rejections being notified after the acceptances, and I'm okay with the acceptances going first. I guess if you're not in that 2-day period, you probably know you're going to get rejected. So, mind you, I was already in, so I didn't have an emotion in the fight. So, but hey, last piece of news, and this one, Tim tells me, is just for you, Tara. So, the organisers of a half marathon in China's northeastern Jilin province announced an unusual prize lineup to attract more participants and promote local produce. Okay, the men and women's race winners received a cow, while other runners were awarded various animals such as wild fish, geese, and roosters. Now, this earth-shattering news is because the region is a major agricultural producer in China. So the organisers of the, I'm not even going to pronounce that, of that particular
Nongan Tai Pinchi,
which took place on December 29, said that the champions could also exchange their bovine prize for 6,000 won, around a USD 827. Second place finishers received 2 wild. No. So how's that for unique, Tara? Is that make you want to go and run a marathon in China so you can bring home a cow?
Well, I would definitely want to be coming in that first place so that I can get the cow, and I definitely would not be trading it in for any money. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a huge animal fan, and I nearly came home with an extra dog on after our Sunday, or actually 2 extra dogs after our Sunday's long run, because they were so cute and I had to stop and pat them, and I was hoping that the owners wouldn't notice if I put them in my pocket and carried them home. Yes, no, I would definitely do it. If I could have an animal for every single race, I would be an extremely happy person.
You can't hang it up on the wall, Tara, next to all the other medals. You can't
No,
put
but
the
it can
cow up on the
cuddle
wall.
with me, so I'm happy. Yes. I actually have one more piece of news that Tim didn't know about. Can I add that one in quickly? The Cadbury Marathon was held yesterday, and an unofficial world record was done by Dan Carmick from Adelaide, and he did this in 2 hours and 49 minutes. Guess what he was wearing to be able to do that?
Oh, I think I know, but I hope I'm wrong.
Was it something foot related, shoe related?
It was, and it's almost like an animal as well.
Crocs.
A pair of Crocs.
A pair of Crocs. A yellow pair of Crocs in 2 hours and 49 minutes. So now this is an unofficial world record at the moment. Let's see how we go.
Why? Why would you do that?
I don't know. He did say, and it's quote, definitely not doing another marathon in Crocs.
And now he can't walk for the rest of the week. So that's the news.
All right. Thanks, Tony and Tara, for the news this week. Now
Sorry
it's
to add
time
extra.
for no, it's all good. Now it's time for a little fun, guys. So what we're about to discuss is just for fun. There is no right or wrong order to run the 7 majors. So what we're about to talk about tonight is just banter between us. It's not the rules as they are. It's just a bit of fun. But having said all that, there are now 7 majors. They are held at different times through the year. And you do them over a period of a number of years. So there are some benefits to doing it in a certain way. So we'll talk about that as we go. Just as a recap, Tara, for our listeners at home, what dates are all the marathons this year for the 7 majors?
And if you do want to run them all in this year, you would have to do it as such. So it would be Tokyo on the 2nd of March in 2025. Boston, is it the 2nd of March or 2nd of April there, Tim?
2nd of March for Tokyo.
It is.
It's always the first Sunday in it's always the first Sunday in March.
Okay, I do apologise. Okay, so 2nd of March for Tokyo. We've got Boston on the 21st of April. And then the next week we have London, which is normal, and that's the 27th of April. Sydney is going to be the 31st of August. Berlin will be the 21st of September. Chicago is the 12th of October, and New York is the 2nd of November.
Thanks, Tara. That's quite a journey around the world if you were to do all those in a calendar year. So, so my first questions to you all is, firstly, in a bit of reminiscing, I'll just go around the room quickly. What order did you run your 6 majors in? Because we only had 6 when we did ours. So what order? I'll go with you, Tony. What order did you do yours in originally?
We did New York in 2018. We're due to do Tokyo and Chicago in 2020, but we know what happened there. Yep. And in 22, we ran London. That was the October version of the London Marathon. We then, in 2023, we ran Boston, Berlin, Chicago, and we finished at Tokyo.
Cool. And Lucia?
So I started my journey in New York in 2016, and then Berlin 2018. Only reason I did Berlin that year because it was the day after my 40th. I thought, go big or go home for 40. Then it was London 22, Chicago 22, Tokyo 23, and Boston last year.
Yes, because we were there.
Yes.
And Tara, for our listeners, what was our order, if you can recall them all?
So our first one was supposed to be Tokyo. That got cancelled, same as Tony, 2020. So then we started out on London 22, and Lucia and Tony were both there. Then we did... I'm going to say Tokyo.
Okay. In March.
Then we did Tokyo in March. Then we did Berlin. Then we did Boston. Then we did Chicago and New York. So, yes.
Cool. All right. So we're going to have a bit of fun because I've just made a note here. So Tony and Lucia all started with New York, and Tara and I started with London. As a starting point, if you were to redo them again, how would you do your number one? What would you be your preferred number ones, and why, I guess?
I've also asked Sharon what she would have done as a preference as well. So when I speak, I'll mention Sharon's and then I'll mention mine. So of course, Sharon would say she would still start with NYC. It's the best one, and it's the one that gets you excited to do the others. So that's why she would run New York City first. I would run New York City first as well, because the first experience was just amazing. And while I've run New York twice, and both runs were certainly not in the upper echelon of what we would say was an enjoyable run, just the whole vibe of New York, just being there, just running the city, just thinking to yourself as you're running through the crowds and saying, I'm running the New York City Marathon. So, yeah, I would kick off with New York, and so would my beautiful wife, Sharon.
Okay. And Lucia, if you had to do them again, what would be your number one?
I'm with Tony. I would keep it as New York because just echoing what Tony said, like, so New York was my second marathon, and for it to be on such a big scale, like you got the vibe. It's like, yeah, I'm actually doing something special, and the way that the New Yorkers celebrate it as well, it's like no other city bar Boston, I think, celebrates it as much post race, and I absolutely loved that. Yeah, so New York would still be my number one.
Okay, that's 2 votes for New York. Tara?
Oh, look, New York was our last one, but I guess, yes, look, New York or London would be my top picks for the two for the start. Look, I did London as my first one, but I know I can only pick one. I'm just saying because of the vibe. The vibe of those marathons are different to any other marathon. If you're looking for the excitement of getting really excited about a marathon, yes, New York. If you've never run any other marathon before, New York.
Yeah. I agree. The reason, and I know why you three are all saying New York, because you want to start with a big bang. And there is no doubt running the major marathons, you want that big bang experience to get you going. And I was talking to somebody the other day, Sharon, about this, our friend Sharon. And to me, there's 3 that are the big bangs. There's London, there's New York, and there's Chicago. All 3 have more than 50,000 runners in the race. In the race, all 3 have massive crowds. All 3, the city comes alive. Yes, New York is probably a slight step above all that. So for me, I think you're right. I think what you're trying to say is that you want that big bang. You want to go there and be excited and be wowed on your very first major marathon. And so for me, it would be probably London or New York or Chicago for those 3. I would probably do London first, and there's a reason why, which will become clearer later on, is the linking of events, that you can link Chicago and then back it up 3 weeks later. So, and if we take those things into account, then yes, I would do London first and finish with a big bang, like we did. So that's how I'd do it. Would you agree with that, guys, that it is about that big bang to get that wow factor on your first major? Because it is a big deal.
Yeah, you want to get excited. So, and if you were to, just from my own personal point of view, if I was to have run Berlin first, well, I actually don't reckon I would have run Berlin. So, you know what I mean? So it's just about, to me, New York City got that holy dooly, this is an amazing thing, and I want to do more of it. So,
yeah. All right. So the 3 of you guys have said New York. I've said London. What would be your number 2 then?
Same order.
Yep.
So Sharon says Berlin. The race itself wasn't her greatest. It didn't excite her, and it was a pretty tough run. My second would be New York.
New York?
You said New York for your first one.
But my third one would also be New York. No. All right, no. Seriously, my second one would be London, and
London.
And the reason there is I would just want to keep the momentum going. London had great atmosphere. It was a great vibe. They had men's urinals, so that's a big tick for me. The streets were crowded. I still remember popping into, was it Leicester Square or something, where we were close to where we were staying, and there's just people everywhere, and just that whole vibe. The storybook, you're walking past Big Ben, you're seeing the Eye of London, there's the Tower Bridge. So yeah, I'd run London second.
Okay. Lucia?
I don't know if I would necessarily change my order. I think I would keep it as what I did. So for me, it was Berlin. I know I'm going a bit forward with what I'm about to say next, I always thought I'd end my 6-star journey in London, just because I used to live in London, and it always has a special place for me. Yeah, so I wouldn't necessarily change the order of how I did the races. Yes, so for me, number 2, Berlin.
Okay. Tara?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy that we did Tokyo as our next one. It's not that it's underwhelming, but it's not overwhelming either.
It's reserved.
It's
It's
unique.
definitely not one, like, no offense, Tony, I don't think I'd want to finish on Tokyo. But yeah, and I don't mean that.
No offense taken.
Yeah, thank you. Tokyo, I definitely would be one of the ones that I would get out of the way as soon as possible, especially if you knew you were going to do the majors. When we signed up for Tokyo in 2020, we actually hadn't planned on completing majors. We had just planned to travel overseas, and we liked Japan. So to us, that was never going to be a case that we were actually going to be doing the majors. It was just a case that we wanted to travel to Japan. Once we learned about the majors, it was like, oh, let's see what else we can do. And then, yeah, that's how that journey started, I guess. But yeah, Tokyo.
Okay, Tokyo for you. I would probably say, for me, it would be either Tokyo or Berlin. Again, you're right. I would call Tokyo is reserved, and it's to do with their culture. They're not big noters. They're not huge self-promoters, and so the vibe is somewhat lacking. But for me, I'm like you, Tony. Berlin was never on my radar as a country or a place to go to visit, let alone go and run a marathon. But having done it, I loved that event, and I really had a good experience. Enjoyed the vibe of the city. Again, it's another big one. Up until November 3rd, it was the world record for the biggest marathon on the planet as far as people finishing. So for me, it's another big one, but it's not quite a London, Chicago, or a New York as far as crowds and everything goes. So I would put Berlin second. So looking at that list across there, we've got 3 for Berlin, 1 for Tokyo, 1 for London. So Tokyo, I guess Berlin gets it for the chocolates in the second place there. But it's a close call. What about third spot? How would you then order it now? So Tony, you've gone New York, London. Sharon's gone New York, Berlin. What would be your third one?
So third for Sharon is Tokyo, and didn't like the out and backs, and once again just had a tough run at Tokyo from about 30k on. My third choice would be Boston, but I'd want to nail it this time. And so I'm getting the 3 big ones in my eyes out of the way first and getting that momentum going. I think the week of Boston is just incredible. It's the best vibe. You have you've just got everything going on. You can feel the history. You can feel the somberness around it with the Boston bombing thing that happened back in 2030, around that time. So yeah, Boston number 3. So I think I followed my journey so far. New York, London,
New York, London, Boston. You are following the way you did it, yeah. Lucia?
My third one was London. So
Yes.
yeah, it just worked out that originally that year I was doing Chicago because I had a carryover from COVID. And then a friend said, do you want to do London? I'm like, what's the date? She goes, I think it was like 2nd of October. I'm like, yeah, sure. It's a week before. It's week prior to Chicago. Why not do 2 in a week in 2 different countries? So yeah, I'm sticking with the order that I did it in. So for me, London is number 3.
We're not changing. Tara, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is a change, and that is going to be Boston. And that is because we did the 2 trips to the US last year and spent like 7 weeks in the US last year. So for me, I would do Boston. Boston also, I would do it in that order, mainly because it has got such a strict cutoff time. So if you do miss the cutoff, you've got time to go back to redo it again. We do have friends that did Boston as their very last one, and unfortunately didn't make the cutoff. So then they have to go wait a whole year to come back to do another major, or to finish their journey. It's a really tough thought that you would be going through. And so, yeah, for that reason alone, I would be putting Boston as my number 3.
Yep, I'm with you. I would also go for Boston, number 3 for me. Tony, were you going to say something? Because you're on mute.
Yeah, I said good point. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I think Boston is one of those ones you've got to do it. You've got to make it out. Now, some people absolutely love Boston and love the race and love the atmosphere, and they've got all their jackets and they get excited by that. I love the city. I love the place. I love the history of the event. I loved everything about it. But is it up there if a major as far as atmosphere once you're out there running on the course? Does it feel major-like at times? Yes, you've got lots of runners, but to me, it wasn't that special when you're out on course compared to some of the other majors that are out there. And there's a lot of empty space where there's no crowd and it's just countryside and not much else. So, yeah, I think I would put Boston at number 3 as well for me. All right, number 4. Now, don't forget, guys, we got 7 of these. So you've also got to add Sydney somewhere into the mix, which is something new for us all.
Well, I haven't done that.
Yeah.
So Sydney's still on the side. So I'm just looking at this as my 6-star journey. So Sydney will be number 7.
Well, then, well, that's the question I was about to ask, right?
Because it's still a 6-star medal until 9 comes on.
So part of that is, do you finish on a 6-star medal, or do you finish in Australia in front of family and friends and get a 7 virtual star on the Majors app? So keep that in consideration where Sydney comes into this. So I'm going to go to you, Tony. Your 4th one that you did with Sharon was in Berlin.
Yeah.
What is your 4th one this time round?
So for Sharon, London is her 4th if she had the choice.
Yes.
So lots of people, good facilities, and the start village was amazing. My 4th one, Tokyo gets shunted from number 6 and gets put into number 4. So just to get it done, get the fear of the cutoffs out of the way. I actually really enjoyed the run itself, and I agree with you. It is a much more reserved run, marathon. The crowds are quite reserved. Roads are beautiful. Space was beautiful. Out and backs didn't bother me because you could wave to people on the other side.
Correct.
I'm certainly not going for a time, so having to do a 180 didn't really affect me. It's just so well organized, no rubbish. It was just so much to like about Tokyo. But yeah, I've talked about the 6-star experience at Tokyo was very underwhelming for Sharon and I. So the reality for me is that I'd get it done at number 4 and just go from there.
Yep. Okay. And Lucia?
Chicago.
You are just following the same pattern, aren't you?
Yep. Absolutely love Chicago. The vibe of that city on race day, hard to beat.
Yep. Okay. And Tara?
Oh, well, it'd be Berlin for. Is that what are we up to? Number 4?
Yeah.
Yes,
5. Oh, yeah, it is Berlin. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, I thought I'd lost it. A marathon. Definitely Berlin. Loved Berlin, but it isn't one that I would be putting as my final one. It's one that you have to do. Good vibes, flat course. You see a lot of the city, but my hips really hurt after that from being so flat. It's sort of. You need that elevation change. So that's why it's going in at number 4.
Okay. For me, it's a toss-up. I would probably either do Sydney or Tokyo in my 4th position. Probably.
But you haven't done Sydney, so you can't
I'm talking 7 majors.
Okay.
So three of us are talking 6, Tara. Tim's
Yeah.
talking 7.
All right.
So,
I
Yeah.
will push Sydney to the bottom, and we can talk about Sydney and where that fits in later on. Okay.
Yes, as
So
a
therefore,
theoretical one.
yeah.
well, it's not theoretical. It is out there, and our listeners will want to know because they want to order.
You just
create
don't
the
get
order.
a 7-star medal at the moment. So
There you go. All right. For me, then it has to be Tokyo. So Tokyo has to be my 4th, just like you, Tony.
yeah.
So yes, I would put Tokyo in there. I love Tokyo. I've been to Tokyo 5 times before. I love going to Japan. I love the culture of it. Yes, they are reserved people, but everything is perfect. Yes, when we did that, there was a whole heap of rules around COVID, and we had to do all these tests, and there were these do's and don'ts that we all had to follow religiously. But you know what? If you followed everything that they said they wanted you to do, it went seamless on the day, and it was a perfect day. So it's a different culture, but it is a good culture, and it works. So that's me, Tokyo. All right, coming down to the pointy end, number 5, your penultimate marathon, the one where you get really excited because after you complete this one, you can then put your request in to finish your 6 stars.
Yeah. So for
Tony,
Sharon, it's Boston. So the hype surrounding the week. She really feels like she achieved something in Boston, which was getting me across the line. So and in her eyes, she had no pressure, which I think was, so maybe I've got to do that more often, just pull up lame. So yeah, it was really, really cool. And one of the other reasons why Boston's number 5 is because she got to build up some reputation and with the traveling sports travel companies, because at least you've showed that you've done 4 majors with them already, because there's no hope in hell that Sharon and I are ever going to qualify for Boston. So that's why she's got it at number 5.
Okay, and for you? You've
For
already got
me,
Boston at number 3. So what would
yeah,
be your number 5?
yeah, because Traveling Fit let me do Boston early because I'm such a nice guy. I would say Berlin, and I'll share a little bit more about that when we talk about number 6.
Okay, and I understand why. Because we probably are doing the same. Lucia, you had Tokyo on your one previously. You'd want to stick with Tokyo?
Yeah, even though it was one, I don't think I would have run Tokyo unless it was part of the majors. And
Yep.
it was very interesting, as you mentioned before, Tim, being there pretty much after they opened from COVID. But yeah, if you followed the rules, everything was fine. It wasn't my favourite race because I was so worried about the goddamn cutoffs that I didn't enjoy it. But glad actually went better than what I had anticipated. So I was grateful for that. I was grateful I didn't get cut off. So I'm like, after that one was done, I'm like, sweet, just one more to go.
Yep, I get it. I understand it. And Tara, your number 5?
My number 5 is definitely Chicago. Chicago is absolutely amazing. It just blew my mind how much I enjoyed Chicago. I was so surprised. It's fantastic. And when you finish it, as you say, you know you've only got one more race to do. So you're actually on like almost as much of a high as what you are from your 6-star finishing your 5th star. So, well, I was, because I knew there was only 3 weeks between. But Chicago was fantastic. Great atmosphere. Oh, yeah, loved it.
Yep, I 100% agree and concur. I would do Chicago in 5th place as well. And I guess yours is the same reason why mine is, Tara. And I also guess it's the same reason why Tony is doing his the way he's got it structured as well. So, all right. So speaking of the 6th star, this is the final bit where you get the medal. Which one are you doing? It must be Chicago for you, Tony, because that's the only one on the list that you haven't done.
So Sharon's doing Chicago. So
Yep.
we just had a great day at Chicago, and I'm doing Chicago as my 6th. Now, just I do talk about Tokyo being underwhelming, and it was interesting in 2024 the amount of people that did get their 6 stars at each race the first time anyway. Tokyo had the most at 2,000, over 2,500. Boston was the second most at over 1,000. Chicago had 170. So I think that I would like that atmosphere where you're more of a select group of people. But Chicago was great. But also with Chicago, I can get my 6-star medal and then go have a beer. It's all within the finishing village. So I think that is awesome.
And donuts as well, because they give you free donuts
Yep.
at the end as well.
So
Stan's
wearing
donuts.
my 6-star, drinking my finisher beer and scoffing down some donuts. What a way to live. So I'm finishing at Chicago.
Yep, I like that approach.
And
Lucia,
it was, sorry, I did mention, so we did Berlin, Chicago, we ran them together. So, and there was a 2-week difference. I think this year it's a 3-week difference, but it was just good to be able to go Berlin, go to the Oktoberfest, jump on a plane, go to Chicago, spend I think just over a week there, a week and a half roughly, and run the marathon. And to me, it was just one of the best times of my life, to be honest. It was just a very easy trip for me. So loved it.
Yep. No, I understand completely. Chicago is very special. Lucia, you've got Boston as your last. Looking at your order: New York, Berlin, London, Chicago, Tokyo, Boston to finish with. Explain to our listeners why.
To finish it in and to finish it in a race that's steeped in so much history, and the fact that I think it is one of the smallest size fields of a major was just so special. And the fact that people stayed out there to support all day, including staying out there till the back of the packers came in, and doing that famous ride and then left onto Boylston. Just the history associated with it and just the significance of that race as well. It felt special to be able, first of all, run it, because it is hard to get entry if you're not a time qualifier. It was just amazing, and to have so many friends there to share it with. It was, for me, I'm glad I ended it in Boston.
Okay. Yep, I get it. I get that as well. And Tara, New York to finish with, I see.
No, it'll be London, because
London for you. Sorry, yes.
That's the thing. So I can't really actually decide between London and New York for first and last. And the reason for this is because the atmosphere in both of these places is a party. You've got no pressure on your finish times. It doesn't matter what time you finish. You will still get your medal. It is an absolute party atmosphere. You wear your medal around the next day and you get treated like a celebrity. Like New York, there was a small contingent of finishers. They're very, very big into the New York Marathon, and they celebrate for days and days afterwards. And as you know, Tim, we wore our finishers medal and our 6-star medal the next day around, and we were treated like celebrities. Like everyone wanted to stop and touch them and talk to us about running, and were congratulating us. So I think you would probably get that in London as well, with the way that the English are and the way that London felt as a major. I also like the fact that I could do, as Tony said, Chicago and then New York and just hit them out 3 weeks, and I've got just a short period of time to just not have to wait for that medal.
Yep, I agree. I think I've got New York only because it's the biggest one. It's a good one to finish with. It's a big party the whole way around. I like the fact that, a bit like what Tony was saying with Chicago, Berlin, Chicago, you can do the Chicago, New York double, which is what we did last year. We had an absolute ball. We traveled around the US, and you get to New York and it's just a big party. You know, the relief is almost over once you get there. You know you're going to get that medal. You just got to run the 42.2 to get there. But yeah, I loved it. So looking at the most popular out of each of those. So number one, the most popular for us was New York. 4 out of the 5 of us said New York. The second one we said was Berlin. 3 out of the 5 said Berlin. The third most popular was then, the third in the sequence would be Boston with 3 out of 5, followed by Tokyo in 4th place, followed by Chicago in 5th and also 6 places. So, yeah, so I think what we're saying is all the same sort of stuff. You want to start with a big bang. You want to finish with a big bang. There's 3 events, as I said before, that really are the big bang events: Chicago, London, and New York. And I think starting or finishing with one of those 3, I think all of us would be quite happy if we started or finished with one of those 3. And then it's about a matter of filling in the blanks in the middle. Now, one thing we haven't done there is consider things like the timing of the events each year. So just like you, Lucia, you go New York, which is a November event. Then you go to Berlin, which is a September event. Then you got London, which is in April, Chicago in October, then to Tokyo, which is in March, and then Boston, which is then again in April. So is that the right sequence given the timing of the years, or, given that we only ever going to largely do 1 or 2 of these a year, it probably doesn't matter so much, but there is opportunities to back up. I don't know what
So
you
that's
guys think
about
about
a
that.
3.5 year journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The quickest you could do that order. Yeah.
And I think my journey would have been different if it wasn't for COVID.
Everyone's, yeah. We would have started with Tokyo as our first one. So if it wasn't for COVID, Tokyo would have been our first. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess the other thing to look at as well is around the weather. The weather of all these races can be so up and down. I talked before about Boston and its fickle weather. It can be up and down, and it can then, be something that you might need to take into account as well. Some of these, New York is at that stage of year where it's starting to change very quickly from fall into winter in their time. And if an early winter was to come through in New York, it could be a lot worse experience than what we've experienced when we've been over there. So it is one of those things we experienced. All 4 of us experienced London in October. None of us have run it in April. And I'd imagine it's a different time in April than it is in October in London. So it is interesting. It's been an interesting discussion anyway to see the order. But yeah, generally the order we've sort of said is New York, Berlin, Boston, Tokyo, Chicago. And which one am I missing there then? Tokyo, Chicago, Berlin, London to finish with, or thereabouts. On top of that, then you've got Sydney to throw in the mix, and then soon to be Cape Town and Shanghai. Cape Town is at the moment scheduled in October and amongst Chicago and New York in between those events. And then you've got Shanghai, which is 2nd or 3rd week of November typically. So if they were to stay where they are, would you then consider doubling up some of those events?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. You've just got me thinking about where do I want to do the 9-star, or if I am going to do the 9-star. So Sydney this year will give me 7. I'm probably not going to be running if Cape Town gets through this year. I probably won't be running Cape Town 2026. I don't know if I'd want to finish my 9-star journey at Shanghai. So I'd probably run Shanghai before Cape Town. So yeah, it's so interesting. And I think what we saw with Sydney is the Sydney dates change. So who knows when they're going to be running them. So I think it's just a matter of wait and see, and from my perspective, and just saying, okay, let's see what happens. So
yeah, and I guess the other thing is once it goes to a 9-star, and it's probably more pertinent for you, Lucia, and I know Tony, you've got family in Sydney as well. Would you then, if you had to do it all over again, finish in Sydney with family and friends and get your 6-star or 9-star in front of family and friends?
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, because you want to party with it overseas and make a big thing of it, right?
Exactly, because this is going to sound really bad, and I don't want it to come across that I'm a snob or anything like that, but I run a lot of the Sydney Marathon route regularly. So for me, it's not special, even though running down that final stretch down Macquarie Street and seeing the Opera House and the Harbour Bridge on the left, you can't beat it. But for me, that's normal. So
Mhm.
I wouldn't want to finish my journey with that. I'd rather finish it overseas and have a blast.
Yep.
And I
Yeah,
understand
and
that it's like us running Gold Coast because we do it every year. And when we're down there, we run the same course, and it's really nothing special for us. So I know it's not a major, but it's the same thing. It's the same course you run. So
Yeah.
it's not that interesting. Yep.
Yeah. And I was talking to Tara about this the other day. One of the reasons why we're going with Travelling Fit down to Sydney, we could go and organise it ourselves and get through the Ballot. But I think it's that social aspect that we really enjoy. We like going out and celebrating. We like being around other runners. We like making an event of it over 4 days. And if it was like for you, Lucia, you miss out on all that experience. You literally go to work, you go to the expo on a Friday night, pick up your race pack, turn up on a Sunday morning and go and do the race. And then once you finish, make your way back home, have a shower and change. And by then you're too tired to go out and have a drink, or let alone go back into town to celebrate. So
Oh no, she'll be coming back into town to celebrate. Don't worry.
but you get the concept. So
Exactly.
it is one of those things. And I guess that order that we've come up with would change if you're listening to this and you're a New Yorker living in New York, or you're a Londoner living in London. You might have a totally different perspective based on exactly what we've just talked about. So it is something to be mindful of as well, is how do you do it, and whether you do it. It is a totally personal journey, and there is no right or wrong answer, is there really? But on all that, I am mindful of time because we are running way over time tonight. So apologies for that. So before we finish up, we always get a tip from me, but tonight I'm going to give it over to Lucia again, and you get the honours of a Lucia's tip. Lucia, what is your tip this week?
Now, I know everyone is so excited that it's me this week, but I'm actually going to rehash something I did a few months ago because it's still very relevant, and especially now we're at the start of 2025. It's about planning, whether that be making sure you've got your training plan, but probably more importantly, the races, because longer distance running, it's becoming more and more popular. Because last year GC Mara sold out in what was it, 2 or 3 days? The half Mara sold out same day. So if there are any races you want to do, work out what they are at the start of the year, and as soon as the race goes on sale, get it. Don't dilly-dally, because there's no guarantee. If a race is sold out, you don't know if they're going to be able to, like if people are going to be able to sell their entries or do transfers. And because once you've got your races locked in, you've got something to look forward to, and then you can plan your training. So it's all about the planning, and don't delay. It's probably the big thing. And I thought it would be a good reminder to kind of start us off for 2025.
Yep. 100% agree with that tip. You have to book, you have to get them early there. I don't think there is any such thing as a super early bird special anymore, because race organisers know their events sell out pretty quick. So definitely don't wait. Take the super early bird special and get in and book it in. I'd agree. All right. Thanks for that, Lucia. This episode's about to end, but before we do that, Tara, who have we got on next week?
Excellent. So thanks, Tim. Next week we're talking to our good friend Reese Eberhard. Tim and I have known Reese for many years. He's run more than 30 marathons. I think he's actually closer to 40 maybe, and has recently joined us on our New York experience for his first ever major marathon. So next week's episode, Reese is going to share with us his experience on running New York, as well as talk to us about his running journey. In addition to running marathons, Reese also does night navigation events here in Brisbane. And we will talk about all the fun of the night navs. So in addition, Reese is also a keen photographer and has linked his love of running with his love of photography, taking lots of photos from running events. And he is known as running paparazzi on social media, and he does some great shots from out on course. As usual, Tim, this is an episode not to be missed.
Thanks, Tara. I'm really looking forward to getting Reese on, because he's one of the good guys. And I know, Tony, you got to meet him in New York and spend a bit of time with him, and He's one of those guys that just is always near the back of the pack, always with a smile on his face, the loud music going, the photos going, and he's there to help everybody out on the course. So I'm really looking forward to talking to Reese next week and hearing his story. So thanks for that, Tara. This ends what has been another awesome show. I've had a lot of fun tonight, guys, reminiscing and sharing our thoughts on the order of the 7 majors, or how we should run the 7 majors. I'm not sure we actually came to a resolution other than the way we did them was probably the right way. So anyway, guys, thanks for joining me tonight, and hopefully you all have a good week running, and I'll see you all next week. As always, we love recording these podcasts for you, our wonderful listeners. We love hearing your feedback. So, like Sean and like Kay, please send us a message if you're wanting to hear something on the podcast, or wanting to get us to talk about something, or even just send us your thoughts on the order of the marathons and how they should be run. So wherever you're listening to it, please like the episode. You can comment on our social media on Instagram, Facebook, and comment via Messenger app as well. You can even send us an email via Tony. What's our email address?
happyrunning@flyingrunner.com.
Excellent. Thank you. So, yeah, thank you to our listeners. Thank you to all of you. As usual, video of this episode will be available on Spotify and YouTube, and audio will be available on Apple and most other popular podcast platforms. Remember, every step forward is a victory. Lace up, hit the road, and we'll catch you on the next episode of The Flying Runner. Until then, happy running.
Happy running.
Happy running.